Good afternoon and welcome to Mobile Technology in Libraries with David Lee King. I'm Gail Hurley from the Connecticut State Library. Before I introduce David, I just want to let you know that we'll be also having two more workshops coming up in this technology series with David. The first one is Library Engagement Platforms, and that will be February 27th, and Social Media Update 2026. And that will be on March 27th. So just keep an eye out for that. So David Lee King is the Digital Services Director at Topeka and Shawnee County Public Library, where he plans, implements, and experiments with emerging technology trends. He speaks internationally about emerging trends, website management, digital experiences, and social media, and has been published in many library-related journals. David is a library journal mover and shaker, and his newest book is Face to Face, using Facebook, Twitter, and other social media tools to create great customer connections. And David blogs at www.davidleeking.com. So welcome, David.
All right, thank you. Let me share my slides, make sure that's all working. Find my mouse again. All right. There we go. Okay, so yep, I'm David King, Digital Services Director at Topeka and Shawnee County Public Library. And we are going to talk about mobile technology trends for libraries today. So we'll look at some current, just current trends, looking at statistics and changes with mobile technology, just a brief bit of history about mobile technology. And then we'll dive into talking about mobile technology needs inside the library and outside of the library. We'll touch on the digital divide and also staff use of mobile technology. Please feel free to ask questions. Probably be best to, you can go ahead and type your question in the chat window. I probably won't see it until the end of this presentation. I've got 3 screens and they're all covered with different parts of my presentation. So I won't see those till I stop sharing, but feel free to chime in anyway. We'll cover those as we get to them. Oh, now what's going on here? Here we go. Okay, so to start off, think about this. How did you use your phone this last week? And for me, here's some of the things I did the last week. Well, the most important thing right now, I've been checking the weather pretty constantly because it went from 40 to like 11 degrees outside, and we're going to get dumped on tonight and tomorrow with snow. Our dumped on is your guys probably light snow, but still, it's a big deal. So I've been watching that. I used Apple Maps to drive to a restaurant, used my camera quite a bit, social media apps I've used. In fact, I just used Instagram a few minutes ago. With the Wikipedia app, that's one of my most used apps. I use that quite a bit when I have something I'm thinking about. I'm like, oh, look it up in Wikipedia. Safari, that's just the web browser app. Email, both work and personal. They're different apps. Messages, the passwords app on my phone. I've used a smart thermostat app to turn the heat up in my house. I actually used the Find My app to find my daughter when I was driving to the restaurant to make sure we got there about the same time. My church worship team uses something called Planning Center, so we can do our scheduling and say, hey, you're playing drums this week, that kind of thing. I've used Spotify. I've used Venmo once. That was on my phone. On my iPad, I use something called OnSong, which is a sheet music app. That's where I keep music that I play when I'm playing guitar on. I use the Voice Memo app to capture a song idea. Use Libby. I'm reading a book right now. And then the Safari web browser on my iPad. My wife and I play the Connections New York Times game every night, and we do it on an iPad. It's big and easy to see that way. I think I use the actual phone app on my iPhone, maybe once. So not too much. Other things I regularly do, banking through an app, an exercise tracker, a calorie counter, shopping, yay, Amazon app, news. I read a lot of news on my phone, calendars, etc. So my point here is that mobile technology and these devices have become a really important part and important tool that helps each of us throughout the day. It's no longer just a phone. In fact, that's just one of many uses for your device, new and different. And mobile phone technology has been around for a really long time. So a while ago during the pandemic, my wife, my youngest daughter, and I were watching Andy Griffith reruns. Fun stuff. So this was a TV show from 1967 where a guy had car trouble and he used his car phone to call for help. I had no idea they existed in the 60s. So I, of course, went to Wikipedia and lo and behold, mobile phones have been around since the 1940s. That blew my mind when I heard about that. Because my first experience with those would have been one of my first bosses in the library world in the 90s. Her husband was a realtor and had a car phone, sort of like this guy. But that was in the 1990s. I didn't realize they existed way before then. So 1940s, first mobile phones hit. And then car phones hit somewhere in there and got fancier. And then around 1996, that's when Palm Pilots happened, if you remember those. Some of you older folks might remember those. I had both a Palm Pilot and a Trio, if you remember those at different times. And then 2007, the first iPhone came about. So also the first smartphones really started appearing then. 2010, the iPad showed up. It was really one of the first tablets. Apple had some other examples before then that didn't really take off, but the iPad really did take off. And since then, we've gotten other types of Google and Android tablets and Kindle ebook readers, etc. So since then, mobile technology has really taken off and changed the world in quite a few different ways. So let's look at some stats. These are all from Pew Research. A report came out not too long ago talking about sort of giving a mobile technology update. Okay, so as of now, 91% of American adults own a smartphone. That's most of us. That's a lot. My dad, 86 years old, has an iPhone. 78% of us have broadband service at home. Still quite a bit of us. 9 out of 10 US adults use the internet daily. You sort of have to if you have a phone. And 41% say they're online almost constantly. I fit into that category, I would say. 16% of American adults are smartphone dependent for internet use. And we'll cover this again a little later in this presentation. But so these are people who have a smartphone but don't subscribe to home broadband. This will hit people mostly with lower income, making 30,000 or less a year. So they can't afford both. So they choose the phone and the more roaming always access on a smaller screen rather than good broadband at home that they can only access from home. Usage. So I was quite pleased to see my usage, which is right now an average of 1.5 hours a day. That's sort of down from a few weeks ago, which it seems like a lot to me until I read that almost half of US adults, 48%, their usage is 5 to 6 hours a day on their phones. Blew my mind. Like, that's like more than half of your workday. Wow. Smartphones make up 70% of digital media time in the US. So watching videos, entertainment, listening to ebooks, that kind of thing. So gaming, social media, and entertainment all fit into there. So gaming at 94%, I think, happens on a phone. And if you think about it, there are a ton of gaming apps built for phones. So that's where that fits in. Social media, 92%, makes a lot of sense. Social media is sort of built for mobile phones. It's an app-based thing. Um, Different types of entertainments, 83%. I think that'd be like videos, like YouTube videos, that kind of thing. Um, and then just app usage in general. So apps have replaced a lot of physical things. So if you think, have any of you read an ebook on your phone or your tablet? That's what I'm doing right now. I'm not reading a print book at the moment. So the device with the ebook on it has replaced the physical book. Different types of utilities. I mentioned I'm a musician, so I use normal guitar tuners, but I also have a guitar tuner on my phone, which works just as well as the physical device. Cameras, I do own an actual camera still, but I never use it. I almost always use the camera on my phone. It's actually better in many ways. A video camera, same kind of thing. Different types of, like if you remember Franklin planners from a long time ago, I've never really used a planner, but when I do, or when I try to anyway, it's the reminder app on my phone. Different types of app-based planners, notebooks, etc. I do a lot of that through an app, and many of us do. So that's sort of touching us personally and sort of some statistics in general about what's going on in the mobile technology field. But let's also talk about business practices that have changed. So communication channels, the fact that I'm giving you this presentation through Zoom is a huge deal because you guys could be watching this on your phone, right? Maybe some of you are. I had an interesting experience. So my library board meets every month, and we just had our January meeting a few weeks ago. And so part of that meeting, our foundation president gives her monthly report to our library board. And we have a new foundation president. She's a little younger than they have been. And she gave her board report on her phone in a video call to Zoom on the road while she was driving a child to like gymnastics practice or something like that. She had a scheduling conflict. So instead of just saying, yeah, I'm not going to be there, we got to see her talking and got to see the car moving, in the background. She was driving. I'm like, I'm not sure that's great, but it worked really well. Something you cannot do without having your phone and that connectivity. So sort of kind of a business practice there that has changed. Equipment. So I bought my lunch in the library cafe today because I didn't want to go out because it's really cold outside. Um, they use Square. That's the Square system for credit card type stuff for credit card transactions. Huge business practice that's a lot more mobile based because it's really sort of packaged in a tablet form, an iPad type form. Um, Airport ticketing has changed. Most people have the ticket on their phone these days. Even credit cards. I think if I'm doing money with younger people, oftentimes I'm just Venmoing money to them instead of giving them cash or, even using a credit card normally. Um, Huge changes there. So social media, which I mentioned earlier, a form of communications, happens primarily on a phone these days. It's just easy because it's always in your pocket. GPS mapping. Some businesses are based on maps and phones. So like Uber or Lyft, their whole business model is based on using Google Maps and connecting with everybody's phones so they can find you. As are many different pickup and delivery companies. My library actually does a similar thing. We use the what is that app called? Optimo Route. It is a courier type mapping system that's got a phone app to it. So in the morning, our couriers will set up their, 20 stops or so, put in the addresses of each of our places we're stopping, and then using the power of Google Maps, that app will give them their best, most route that makes most sense for that day, taking into consideration construction and that kind of stuff. So helping our drivers be as optimal as possible. Other app-based systems, so sales reps and field operators have phone apps these days. Just a few weeks ago, I had some work done on my garage doors because the little clickers forgot that they were supposed to work. And the guy that came out used an app for pricing and building and billing. A different visual tool helps. So like, when you buy something at Amazon and the driver takes a photo of your package on your stairs to prove that he dropped it at the right place, that is using quite a few different apps because I'm sure they have their own app as well that they're taking the photo through. I've also just used my phone in our server room to share photos of the switch that I was about to flip to make sure it was the correct one. So different types of visual tools. Phones really help in a lot of ways. So again, just a few business practices that have changed because of mobile technology, perhaps gotten better because of mobile technology. Quite a few more examples. Those were a few. All right. So now that we've covered some stats, some personal and business use of mobile technology, let's think about our libraries. Some things that a library might need to think about. And first, let's cover mobile needs inside the library building. You're probably good this way, but you maybe haven't thought about it in this way before. So inside the building, some easy stuff, Wi-Fi, power, and comfortable seating. So my library, we have really good Wi-Fi. We advertise it as the best Wi-Fi in town. We've got power outlets in quite a few places. You can see some along the wall back by the window, but then also we have some USB ports built into some of our tables. I know there's also, I don't think we have this furniture, but you guys might. Some furniture now has power and maybe a USB slot built into the chair itself, like on the armrests or the sides. Those can be really helpful. We also have some towers that sit by furniture as well, and lots of comfy seating, not so much the plastic chairs on the table, but up in the right-hand corner, you'll see some comfortable chairs by some power outlets. And that's just, to help our customers be able to recharge as needed. We also have a few of these around the building, some charging stations. This one is in our kids library area, right by some couches. So if somebody needs to charge up their phone, they can just place it there and charge it pretty fast. We don't do this, but some libraries will also have like things that you can check out, like power bricks or USB hubs just behind the service desk, and you could, check them out for a while or borrow them from the library at a service desk. Those are really handy as well. You can also, depending on some of the apps you have, there are ways to promote things inside the library. So some mobile apps include notifications, like a library app. OCLC's Kapira Mobile is an example of that. They do things like, well, basically, if you have downloaded the app and connected it to your library card and all that kind of thing, they will keep you up to date through phone notifications. So they'll promote events, they'll send you, like in case of emergencies kinds of things. Like we're in Kansas, hey, there's tornado warning, we're going to send you to the basement, that kind of thing. But also, it was a way to help increase event attendance. So maybe a reminder that, hey, in an hour, we're having an author talk. There's still space, come sign up, that kind of thing. So in-building notifications of events starting soon might be helpful. And so some library apps actually do that. Might be something to look into. Again, this is OCLC, and it starts with a C, Capira Mobile. Might be something to look into. Easier ways to do inside building promotions, QR codes of things. People, those work well these days. Setting up selfie stations. So this is East Brunswick Public Library in New Jersey. They set up a selfie station. So taking a photo of themselves using that backdrop and then using their EBPL hashtag, which will share it and let them see it. Maybe they can reshare it, that kind of thing. My library has done that kind of thing before as well, both with just setting up a backdrop and some fun props, and then either using a hashtag, or we've actually set up iPads to do it as well. Works well. It can be a fun thing to do. So those are the inside the building things that I think you should think about anyway. And then there are also some mobile needs outside of the library. So let's just jump into that. So again, pretty basic stuff. Ways to check things out of the library besides sitting down at a computer and going to the library catalog. You want to do that on your phone, right? Because of mobile. This is a mobile presentation. Two examples here from my library. On the left is our web browser. So we use BiblioCommons for the front-facing part of our library catalog. It is done with responsive design, so that BiblioCommons library catalog website fits well on a mobile browser screen and works great. You can log in, you can check things out, put things on hold, browser catalog pretty easily. Then on the right is our mobile app. We use Communico. They build a mobile app, and we use theirs. So also works fine, pretty easy to use. They have a version of a searchable catalog there as well. And then besides that, you can also browse events in our mobile app, because Communico's, I think, bread and butter business would be their event and calendar management stuff. So two different examples of checking things out using your phone. But then also on your website, you'll want to share how many, all the different mobile apps that you have. So this is an example of that from my library's website. You can find a page that has all of we're calling it tools and apps. So you should count how many apps you have access to, because you probably have more than you think. We have 11 different apps of all things. So we've got our library app, the Communico one I just showed you. We have Beanstack, which is sort of a reading challenge app. We give awards to people who get through the read 3 books in January kind of thing. We've got Creative Bug, it's an arts and crafts kind of app. EBSCOhost, those databases, they have a mobile app version. You can connect to our databases that way. Flipster, which is a digital magazine app. Hoopla and Libby, Canopy, LinkedIn Learning, and Mango Languages for more video-based learning type things. And then SmartAlec, which is a mobile way to print things to one of our printers from your phone. Honestly, that one doesn't work so great, but we have it, so we have it listed as well. And then on our page on our website, it will tell you what the app is, show you the icon, so it's familiar when you're browsing through them on your phone. And then it'll also point to the Apple and the Android app stores. So this is just an easy one-stop shop to say, what kind of apps does the library have? Good idea to think about. Also, library newsletters. So there are different ways to do this as well. Um, if you do sort of some type of newsletter, having an online version is a really easy way to get your customers to read and subscribe to library news. So first place to go is to make sure your website displays well on phones and tablets, that responsive design again. If it's a pretty modern website built in the last, I'll say 10 years, most likely it is, but that'd be something to test. So you could just use the blog feature on your website for this, and then have people go to your website, click news, and there it is, library newsletter. If you use more traditional email newsletters, there are quite a few apps that do this. So MailChimp, my library uses some. Orange Boy has e-news that we use as well. Another one is Constant Contact. These generally include really easy ways to subscribe to the newsletter with like your email address. So whenever we publish something, which we publish weekly, I think, or maybe it's every other week, I'm not remembering, but you'll get a copy of that. Yes, every 2 weeks. I should read the screen right in front of me, right? You'll get a notification in your email on that and be able to stay up to date with the library. A slightly geekier way to do that, most websites these days offer some type of an RSS feed still. And so with those, you just need a newsreader, and then that's how you subscribe instead of subscribing to like a traditional e-newsletter with your email address. Same kind of thing. Just a few different ways to get e-news to your customers, to your patrons. Oh, we've talked a little bit about notifications, and I have to say, as an aside, when I was updating this presentation last week, I just found this. I didn't realize that my phone kept track and gave me stats on the amount of notifications I get. That's for iPhones, that's in settings somewhere. And I got like midday, around noon, I'd already gotten 125 notifications on my phone. That's quite a lot. So there's like noon or 1. So I'm thinking, oh, I should check it towards the end of an evening at some point because I get a lot of notifications, as you can imagine. But some of those you might find a little irritating, but they're also sometimes really helpful, right? So getting notifications through apps are sometimes pretty useful. So if you think about Facebook, for example, so Facebook events, you can get notifications. Facebook, when you go live, when you do a live video, that will send a notification. Sometimes they'll send just through the app, where up at the top of like the Facebook app, you'll see like some of those circles saying, "Oh, David's going live," that kind of thing. TikTok and Instagram do similar things. Text and email notifications, you might be sending those for like holds or overdue notices, that kind of thing. We do that, and we are in the process of moving those notifications to a service called MessageBee. So we can smush all those together and manage them a little better. Then I've already mentioned also just that some library mobile apps can also send notifications as well, like Kapira Mobile that we mentioned earlier. Let's see, how about just simple things like asking a question? That should be easy to do on a mobile device. So actual phone call, that's the easiest way to do it, right? So make sure your library's phone number is on your website somewhere. On ours, if you scroll down to the very bottom of any page, you'll get our phone number down in the footer of the website. But here I'm pointing out we've got a chat message service, and we use SpringShare's LibAnswers for this. So this does web chat, text messaging, and also email, and works really well. So you can access that through your mobile device too. And then also social media comments and direct messages. Patrons ask questions in those places as well. So as an aside, if you offer those types of things, like if you have a Facebook account, you need to monitor comments and direct messages because you will get questions there. We do quite a bit. Okay, thinking about your younger patrons, students need access to mobile technology as well. So there are different ways to have, quite a few community connections with your mobile technology. And the one I'm focusing on here is with schools, because these days, at least in Topeka, I believe it's high schools, junior high and high schools, they provide tablets to kids. I think they give Chromebooks out to all their students every year. This could be a good partnership opportunity. So, three things to do there. One, make sure those schools know that the library has Wi-Fi. Then also make sure that those tablets aren't too locked down. So when the schools here in Topeka first started handing out Chromebooks, they didn't work at the library. They had us blocked. They had our Wi-Fi blocked. So we had to work with their IT department to unblock that and make sure everybody knew that, yes, the library is a friendly place for those school issued Chromebooks. And it's fixed now. Yay. Took a while to do. And then three, just let schools know about your other mobile apps. Wouldn't it be cool if you could get them to preload some of those apps onto the student tablets, like Libby, Canopy, Hoopla, those kinds of things. So then they could access some of your databases, some of your product offerings, some of your content, your library's mobile app, maybe. Just those coming preloaded onto those student tablets would be a pretty cool thing to do. And it would be a nice connection to those schools if you don't already have it. So something to think about. Okay, so now let's go to the other side of things and talk about the digital divide a little bit. I've mentioned some of these stats already, but we'll go through them again. So 54% of Americans and households making under 30,000 have home broadband versus 94% of people making a higher income. So that's a lot of people that don't have that. 16% of adults, which we mentioned this earlier, are smartphone dependent for internet use. They have a smartphone, most likely, but don't have home broadband. That percentage is much higher for some minority populations. Be good to look into that more. About a third of households earning less than 30,000 are smartphone dependent, compared with 4% earning 100,000 or more. And then also younger adults. So if you're under age 30, you're more likely than older Americans to be smartphone dependent. That could be for many reasons. Some of those under age 30 haven't hit their stride in their careers yet, so they're still making ends meet. Some of them are just used to, they grew up with phones, so that's their primary device. They're like, well, why do I need home broadband? Maybe they haven't gotten there yet. But a lot of them are still having to make those decisions of which one do I need? Some of them move around a lot still, getting established in their careers and their families. So sometimes it's just easier not to mess with the broadband part of things. So this affects a lot of people, and that's why it's called the digital divide. It's 16% or more in your communities are having some of those issues. And then there's also different types of digital divide. So, and Shawnee County, Kansas, where Topeka is, we have this because we're a small city, a much larger rural area. So people in the city, lower income people, broadband is available, but they can't necessarily afford it. And then outside of the city in some of our rural areas. So those are people who, have big houses, have 3 acres of land, but they could afford broadband, but it's not available because some of these broadband companies haven't done that last mile dig yet to get to individual houses. So that can still be sort of pricey to make that happen. Or the company will just say, yeah, I'm not interested. It's for one customer. Um, and this also is for both internet and cell phone coverage. There are places in Shawnee County that, like my T-Mobile service on my phone, just doesn't work at in some places. So both urban and rural. And there are 3 needs here. And these are ways that libraries can help bridge that digital divide. So it's access to equipment, access to internet, and access to training. So access to equipment could look like this. So libraries obviously have computers, making sure those are available to our customers. You might have laptops that can be checked out. You might have other types of technology services like makerspace equipment, printers, copiers, that kind of thing. Access to internet. So probably at this point, your library has broadband and hopefully good Wi-Fi. You might have a hotspot checkout program. My library does. We have 200 hotspots that people can check out. They are all checked out right now. They go really fast. You might have Wi-Fi access outside of your building, like in the parking lot, and then maybe even after hours access. We do somewhat. So we close most nights at 9 p.m., but then I think it's till like 10:30 or 11 that we have access to Wi-Fi in our parking lot. And then we turn it off at night because unique things happen in our parking lot at 2 a.m. So we don't offer Wi-Fi access then. I think we turn it back on at like 5 or 6 in the morning. And that's just to cover people that don't have traditional, like, 9 to 5 jobs. So they might need to get access to some sort of Wi-Fi or broadband um, when we're not open. So that's a way to help with that some. And then also training. Like us, you guys probably have quite a bit of training and classes and technology help type classes in your libraries, from the very basics on up. What do I do with my new computer to maybe how to cut the cable with television type stuff. So, how to move from cable TV to like Netflix and Disney Plus and all that kind of thing. Lots of technology needs there. How to use your phone. Partnerships can also help bridge the digital divide in different ways. Here are just a few my library has done before. So one thing that we have are computer labs out in the community. We have partnered with our county. So we are separate from the city and county. We're our own independent taxing authority, but we partnered with our county because they have community centers, like with basketball courts and classrooms and that kind of thing. We have a small computer lab in each of those, and then that the library provides. We also partnered with our local housing authority for space in one of their community centers as well. So we have 8 different small computer labs throughout our county. It's a partnership. It's helping give our customers access to technology outside of our building. There's also we have a partnership with our local homeless rescue shelter. We provide Wi-Fi access at their mobile shower that goes around town because a lot of people who need to use the mobile shower do have smartphones. Homeless people sometimes have smartphones. It's the one thing that they can get. They might not have a regular, monthly plan though. So that Wi-Fi access gives them much needed connection to the people they care about and the things they care about. And then also, you guys might have experienced this. State libraries historically have grants to help with technology needs. My library's taken part with some of those things before. Um, Sometimes state libraries have, or maybe regional systems have things that smaller libraries can check out. Like I'm thinking of California State Library for a while. I think they still do this. They have like virtual reality headsets that libraries can check out and use for programs and things like that. So something to think about and look at. All right, now let's sort of end our discussion by talking about staff use of mobile technology because we use mobile technology as well. Um, Smartphones are definitely considered staff tools these days, I think. You know, even just if you work the reference desk and have to get up, you probably still have your phone with you. It's easy to look things up that way. So my library, we do use smartphones at our service desks. Our facilities staff have phones. They're out and about on our library grounds doing things. Our couriers have smartphones. Our security staff have smartphones. And they also have this. This is a company called Zello, and they have the Zello app, which is a push-to-talk app, sort of like a walkie-talkie, but instead of having to carry around a big walkie-talkie, which we still do have some of those from our county, it's just easier to have it on our phone so we can talk to security or facilities. Hey, there's a spill on aisle 3, you know, that kind of thing. Come help. The downsides of having smartphones in that way is they are easy to lose or steal. You know, we can lock them down if they disappear suddenly, but also, you know, staff have to be responsible to not put them down and not lose them. Panic buttons are a challenge. So at our traditional service desks, we'll have panic buttons that quietly call our security department if there's some issue going on. Um, Harder to do that on a smartphone when you're walking around the building. Zello, I think, has something that will do that as well that we've looked into before. There's different ways to do that, but point is that we do use smartphones for staff. We use tablets quite a bit in the library as well. So the one in the photo, this is interesting. This is a customer facing thing. So our daily newspaper, I don't remember why, but we don't get the daily local newspaper anymore. I think we get it a day after now, which you know, that's yesterday's news at this point. But through Newsbank, which is a newspaper database, that we do have today's access to today's newspaper. So we have loaded our local Topeka Capital Journal on an iPad that way through Newsbank. And then you can take it off the stand and sit in a comfy chair, read today's news. It's an experiment. I think a few people are using that. They're right by where all of our newspapers and stuff like that are in our quiet room in the library. So that's a customer-facing tablet. We also have a couple of iPads around the building being used for library catalog kiosks. We tried iPads for kids once, set them up with real squishy cases, that kind of thing. Worked okay. I mentioned photo booth tablets before. We've used iPads for gallery exhibits, so you can interact with things. And we do use extensively iPads for digital signage at like all of our meeting rooms. We have, I don't know, 20 or 30 meeting rooms of different sizes throughout our building. We have one big building for our library, and we are a major event center in the community. So we have a lot of meeting rooms. And just the digital sign will just say, yes, there's a meeting here at 3 o'clock on each of the doors, that kind of thing. But those are iPads that we maintain. And then also Some staff are using iPads as well. So our graphic designers in the marketing department, a couple of them have iPad Pros and Apple Pencils, so they can quickly rough out design ideas on an iPad, like in a meeting or something like that. It's great for web design work. We do that a lot. They also have some note-taking tools that they're using, so using their Apple Pencil to take notes. Um, Public service tools, iPads or different types of tablets are really easy to carry around when helping customers in like the stacks or throughout the building. Some libraries do that. Um, we have used iPads for event sign up before, or like for summer reading, if we have an event in a local park, we might have somebody set up with an iPad and a hotspot so they can sign people up for library cards or get them signed up for the event that we're doing. Then also I'll mention laptops. I would consider them mobile devices as well. All of our librarian level and up staff have laptops at my library. I'm using one right now. So all of our managers as well. We all have laptops with a bunch of screens to make it bigger. But it's just easier because then, if we need to, we can quickly take our laptop to go do a program across town or whatever we need to do. Let's see, mentioned this before, but social media works best on mobile devices these days. So again, my library is big enough that in our marketing department, we have a social media manager. And so that staff member, we bought her a really fancy new iPhone Pro. And that's what she uses. If you've ever gotten onto like our TikTok account or seen some of our Instagram or YouTube shorts, we were posting videos on each of those places daily to weekly. Those are all made using her iPhone that we have supplied. Um, Works great with some added microphones and that kind of thing. Um, so you can do that. You can also let staff connect to library accounts using their own devices. I do that a lot as well. Both work, but we wanted to make sure, especially for the marketing staff person, since they're using their phone so much for video, if they, if she dropped it or something and it broke, we wouldn't necessarily want to re give her money for her personal device, but this way we can just buy a new phone if something happens to it, since it's a work device. Let's see, hotspots for staff use. We use hotspots quite a bit. Our staff will check them out from my department if they're traveling or if they're teaching outside the building. Like I mentioned, the hotspot in the park for library card signups. Our bookmobiles, we still have bookmobiles, and they use hotspots as well to connect back to our library catalog just for, checking things out and that kind of thing. That works great for us. Also, quite a few mobile apps for staff that you'll need to manage, and some that cost money. So, mobile apps for staff that we use include Zello, which I mentioned earlier, Paycom, which is our library's timesheet and payroll app. We have to check into that and time in and out, that kind of thing. All of the customer facing apps like Libby and Hoopla, they all have apps. If you use Office 365 or Google Suite, there's apps for those. Photo booth apps, kiosk mode apps that you might have to maintain, like all of those digital signage things on our meeting rooms, they all have a kiosk mode app so people can't go and play with the iPads and do different things on them. If you have a VoIP phone system, you might have an app that you can set up on your phone so you're getting work calls on your phone without giving people out your personal phone number. Project management, like we use Basecamp right now. There's an app version for that. etc. So quite a few apps that your staff might need in order to manage and connect to library stuff, even back-end staff things. Okay, and I will close with this. So we've learned about mobile technology through trends and stats. We've discussed library needs around mobile technology, both in and out of the building. We've touched on the digital divide. We could do a whole presentation on that. And also tech, mobile technology needs for staff as well, because there's quite a few. So a lot has changed in a very short amount of time. Feels that way to me anyway. And I'm guessing there will be more mobile technology changes in the near future. So I would say that libraries definitely need to embrace mobile technology and be brave, experiment as new technology appears and see if it works for you and see how that might fit into your library for your staff, for your customers, or for both. All right. That was a fun whirlwind of mobile technology. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then let's see what questions we have once I can find my mouse. All right. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts about mobile technology for customers, for staff? Would love to hear them.
This is Gail. I just want to say if anybody wants to unmute and ask a question, if it's harder to, or takes too long to type it into chat, feel free to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right. So Carrie is asking, can you talk more about the Zello app? We have walkie-talkies, but haven't used them often. Okay. Yeah. So we also have walkie-talkies. They're like the ones that our county sheriff's department use and emergency management use. So they connect through the whole county and work really well in the building, but they're also pretty big and unwieldy. So most staff don't use those. But the Zello app, it is really easy to use. Once it's set up, just on a phone, there's this big round button that's basically a push to talk button. And so you hold it down and then you can say, hey, security, can you come help? We've got a lost child in the kids library, or that kind of thing. And that connects right to our security officers. We usually have at least one in the building at all times we're here, and they also have a smartphone with the Zello app on it, so they get those messages. Same with our facilities department. If there's some mess that needs to be cleaned up, or if we need more chairs for an event, we'll often say, hey, facilities, come help. We need 20 more chairs. A lot more people showed up, that kind of thing. It works really well for that. You just have to, make sure that you have smartphones around. So for our facilities department, oftentimes we use older phones that aren't actually connected to like cell phone connection. So they're just using Wi-Fi in the building because those don't generally leave the building. And so they're really sort of used as walkie-talkies, just one that can fit in your pocket. That's what we're doing. And you can also set up different channels so you can talk to everybody in the building that has that. You can talk to just certain departments like just security or just facilities. And all that'll depend on how you set it up, but it'd be something to look into. Definitely not free. I don't remember how much we pay, but yeah, works well for us. Good question. And we have a few more minutes, so if anybody does have a question, feel free to, like Gail said, just ask or type your question in. That'd be great.
Well, I don't see any more questions in chat. So I
All
wanted to
right.
just give thank you, David, very much for this presentation. Learned about a lot of apps and things I didn't know about, so this was great.
Good.
And thank you all for coming. Hope to see you at some of our future workshops with David on different technology topics. And everybody just have a great weekend. Stay warm, all that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.